Okay, so once you've differentiated, once you've identified the product, you're going to want to then figure out what its differentiators are. What is it that's special about it? You know, does it capture mood especially well? Does it capture the intensity of the live performance especially well? Does it capture emotion especially well? What is it you get from this product if it's, for instance, recorded music? And then you can even more granularly decide what else it is. You know, is it rock? If it's rock, is it indie rock? Is it, you know, is it singer-songwriter based rock and roll? You know, what you get into genre, subgenre. Those things are good too, because what they do is they exclude people. They act as excluders, and you want to exclude people. You want to be able to say, this is not for everybody. And if it's not for everybody, then who is it for? And so excluders are great. And every time you exclude a piece of the population, you're doing yourself a huge favor. So once you've understood who it, you know, what it is in terms of its value proposition, in terms of its genre and its subgenre, then, you know, you can start to identify your market and understand who your listener is. People who like rock, duh, right? That's the simplest way of putting it. Then people who identify with intense emotional experiences in music, or people who want, you know, quirky singer-songwriter material. You can begin to back into an understanding of the lifestyle habits, attitudes of those people. Are these people who love listening to their local NPR station? Are they fresh air listeners? Are they morning edition listeners? You know, are they people who eat breakfast at the funky breakfast place downtown? You know, are they, you know, where are these people? Who are these people? Get an idea of who they are, usually by getting an idea of who you are, right? The audience often reflects who the individuals on stage. Put yourself at a Jimmy Buffett concert, right? You're at a Jimmy Buffett show, you look out at the audience and you're basically seeing the same dudes on stage in the audience. Go to a Nine Inch Nails gig, people on stage look an awful lot like people in the audience, right? So, you know, so you've done this thing where you've understood the product and you've understood the audience, or the consumer, your customer. In this case, what I think is important to understand is the scope of the offering. Are you talking about offering live music and recorded music and various kinds of merchandise? Are you talking about offering recorded music, and then if so, what kind of recorded music? Where is the appeal? What is its unique? What are its unique qualities? What makes it worth sharing? What makes it important that you're actually creating this stuff? Why does it have to exist? Well, it has to exist because it's your flavor of the thing, of the genre or whatever. Where's the meaning in it, in other words? If you don't see meaning in your music, if there isn't substance, then we don't need it. If it's just style, I suppose there's some value in it for somebody, but it's going to have a hard time cutting through the noise, and right now there's just an awful lot of noise. I think it's important that you also keep in mind that your competition isn't other music, and your competition isn't other media, and your competition isn't people's work. Your competition is free time, people's ability to do anything else with their free time. If someone's giving you their attention, they're not doing their laundry, they're not catching up on their email, they're not vacuuming, they're not doing something else they need to do. So you need to merit being the top choice for that moment in their lives, especially in an instance where music is as portable as it is and as available on demand as it is. And people could listen anytime, which means they can also not listen anytime. It means they're in a setting or in a context where they could choose to vacuum the house or scrub the bathroom or whatever else they might need to do. It can be a tall order, and yet if what you offer is meaning, and what you bring is some resonance that offers healing or companionship or good times or some sympathetic response. You know, people listen to sad music when they're sad. Why? Because it makes them feel better. Well, why does listening to sad music when you're sad make you feel better? It doesn't make any sense. Why isn't that just piling on? Well, it's because there's a sympathetic resonance. We need to feel something that can make us feel not alone, and that kind of meaning, that kind of human connection that comes from creating meaning, is what you need to find in your music in order to bring about a compelling offering, something that's worth paying attention to. Because people don't only pay with money, they pay attention, right? We talk a lot about the fact that just listening is a form of payment. And you should feel grateful for that attention, for the moment of the attention that you get, for that amount of attention that you can merit. Well, you've got that first circle, that circle of friends and family, the people who know about you firsthand. They didn't learn about you through discovery, through independent discovery, or because one of your fans turned them on to you. You've got that first circle, and that's the one that you can get a lot of information out of that circle. You can determine who your fans really are, but not quite as well as you can when you score that second circle. When you start to move into that second circle of people, the circle that were turned on to your music by other fans and who connected and brought something of themselves to it. I mean, keep in mind that there's so much the listener brings to the music. The listener has to do their part. Music is a form, a special form of art in that way, that it requires, excuse me, music requires so much work on the part of the listener. They need to bring themselves to the party. They need to bring themselves to the experience, or it's not done. The music's not done. And when that second circle of people starts to find, start to find their way to the music, you're then at a point where you're really learning something about the kind of people who gain something from your music, who gain some kind of satisfaction or some measure of comfort or something from their experience of listening to your music. And you can observe that cohort of people and get some pretty darn good information about your natural customers. I think it's very important to give your first circle a way of sharing your music with the second circle, a second circle. So what do we do today? Well, we have the Bandcamp page or the Facebook music page or Reverb Nation or whatever, something that allows people to share your music with one another, without physically emailing themselves, emailing each other MP3s or something, right? Send links to one another, embed players. You upload stuff to YouTube, and people share your links with each other on YouTube. They tweet a link, or they you begin to sort of leak out into a world of people who aren't your people, and when you begin to do that, I think in so many ways that's when you decide if you've got something there. If you begin to attract people who connect on their own, bringing their own sort of projections to the music, bringing themselves to the music, and pulling out some meaning from it. I think that's when you're in business. That's when things really begin. You need something that people can hold and share. Now, the shareable object can be a widget that plays a song on your site or on your blog and allows you to share a song, allows someone else to embed it on theirs. A CD is a shareable object, something that people can connect with you through, through which people can connect with you, I'll say. The live show is so important because it catalyzes so many areas of what the music business is, what it is to be in the business of music. You have the live performance and the dynamics of the live performance, the fact that the music is created in the room, and if it's done right, it exists in a space between the stage and the audience. It's not in either place alone. It sort of hovers in between the two. And when you let music walk into the room like that, that moves everybody. That changes people's chemistry, and it changes their minds, and it's not forgotten easily, and it makes them so much more receptive to the recorded product at that time, which makes perfect sense in so many ways, and it makes it so important that you have a way for them to buy recorded music from you at the gig. So you've got your merch stand, and you've got music there for people to bring home with them, for people to burn and share with their friends, to play when they have friends over. There's this sort of Johnny Appleseed effect of selling CDs at shows, where, sure, you can sell a T-shirt and it's nice, people wear it around, but how many people discover music by seeing someone else wear a T-shirt? Not that many, but somebody might buy your CD and throw it on the back seat of the car and not really listen to it for weeks, and that's okay. But sometime, we've all had this experience where music has this niggling little effect in the back of your head, and finally you decide, that's the right time for me to listen to this CD, and you reach for it sort of magically, and you put it in, and it is the right time for you to listen to that music. And that is that same kind of chemical connection that was conjured up in the live setting. And you start to build real connection, and real emotional connection based in the music. So live gigs are very important. If you don't have the passion and tenacity necessary to score yourself a gig, then a certain amount of natural selection might be appropriate. Then maybe you do die off. If you do have the passion and tenacity that it takes to score yourself a gig, then you've created a marketplace for your ideas, for your music, and you've created a way that ideas can be spread by sharing this music, sharing the experience of being at the gig, sharing the hard copies, the CDs, burning copies for your friends, or sharing digital music, whatever it is. And at that point, I think you've begun to give people the power to sort of spread your ideas. And Seth Godin did a lot of writing about spreading the idea virus. You want to give people the power to become sneezers, to become influencers, to share your ideas and to help them spread. And of course, music, songs are ideas. Encouraging sharing of music, not being too precious about your stuff, not thinking that all sharing is piracy, understanding the power of new technologies and social media, embracing technology, letting technology be the accelerator that Jim Collins says it is. Of course, technology is an accelerator. It's an accelerator of good ideas, but also of bad ideas. And so technology allows you to sort of see what's going to succeed or fail at a very rapid clip. And technology can help you, can really facilitate the spread of your ideas so much more rapidly. Look, the idea is that the internet has brought about a situation where one-to-one marketing scales. We can speak to individuals as individuals in our own authentic voices efficiently. The internet brought efficiency. So if it did anything, it allowed me to be a real person with real people. There's no more command and control, as the Clue Train says. There's no more command and control. It's not a loudspeaker sitting on top of corporate headquarters telling you should buy product. If you buy product, you'll be cool. If you buy product, you'll smell good. If you buy product, you'll be as good as your neighbor. That's done. Now it's people connecting with people. I'm going to make you like me before I ask you to buy anything from me. I'm going to ask you to like me before I ask you to support me. I'm going to make you like me before I ask you to buy anything from me. I understand that it's important that you like me and that you trust me, because the music world, you know, as the Clue Train Manifesto says, resembles more the ancient bazaar, the ancient marketplace, than any kind of corporate marketplace, than any kind of commercial marketplace, post-industrial commercial marketplace. It's all about knowing the purveyor of the product, having a connection, having a trust relationship, understanding value and values. So not just value, understanding that the thing you're asking for money for is worth more than the money you're asking, but also understanding values and understanding that you see the world the same way. You feel the same way about what it is to be a good person, or what it is to make meaning, or what it is to build connection. We've all had the experience where we're holding a $20 bill in our hands, and we would so happily exchange that for something of value to us. A concert ticket. You want to be in that room so bad that night that if you weren't going to get that, you'd just as soon burn that $20 bill. It's worthless to you compared to that concert ticket. You want to exchange it so bad that you'd say, like, yeah, burn the $20 if I can have the ticket. I don't care about the 20. That ticket's worth way, way more than this $20 bill. That's successfully communicated value. When there's a rush to order the limited edition of your CD, and that 100 CDs are gone in 20 minutes, the people who got shut out, they didn't want the $50 in their pocket. They wanted that thing. That's efficiently communicating value. And when people will step up and support your music because they don't want it not to be in the world, when they come up through Pledge Music or through Kickstarter or any other mode and support your music and your work in a direct, crowdsourced way or crowdfunded way, that's successfully communicating values. People don't want one of their own to bite the dust. People don't want to see someone who does things the way they do things to fail. They don't want to see that person fail. So when you've successfully communicated your values, you begin to build that tribe that Seth Godin talks about. And tribes are movements, and you should lead your movement. Give people the ability to evangelize on your behalf. You can do that by having a good website or a good Twitter feed or a good Facebook page, for God's sake. You should do that by being open about music sharing and about just getting everything out there, uploading YouTube videos and uploading live gigs, putting out B-sides and demos and works in progress and whatever else. Just get it all out there. Because if there's any aspect of the long tail that makes sense to artists, it's that there's no such thing as shelf space. You have room to put everything up, and you never know what's going to connect with somebody. You never know if you put up 20 videos on YouTube, which one is going to get 100,000 views and which one's going to get 4,000 views. You just don't know. It doesn't cost you a dime to do it. So get it all up there. Let this stuff work for you. So many of these companies in the music tech world and in just the entertainment world, the iTunes, Amazons, Netflix, Spotify's, they all are aggregators of the art. Well, the musician can be an aggregator of outlets. The musician can turn that around and say, I'm now going to aggregate, but I'm going to aggregate outlets. I'm going to have my music everywhere you can find it. I'm going to be findable no matter what, no matter where. And I'm going to aggregate outlets, just as they aggregate my material. They don't care if they sell one copy of your song, because they're selling 100 million copies in the aggregate. Well, you don't care if you sell 10 songs through one outlet if you've got 100 outlets and you end up selling 1,000 songs a month because you're aggregating outlets. And that idea that digital shelf space is basically infinite should work to your benefit. To be honest, I think a marketing plan today is a spreadsheet or an Excel workbook. Every sheet, probably an area. Every sheet could be press and dates and what has to be done by what date, what is going to be done by what date. When you have finished copies, when you service press, when you do follow-ups, what has been secured, set to run, what is being worked and developed. I mean, essentially that stuff would live on a spreadsheet. If you have like an indie, a retail initiative, that's another sheet, is indie retail, let's say. So what are you sending to indie retail? When? How are you working them? Are you calling them? What do those reports look like? What about radio? What's your strategy for radio? When does radio get serviced? What song is the first song to be worked? When are you looking for ads? And then how are those reports manifest? And how are those reports controlled? So are you, so at that point you're sort of running, again, you're running with dates and tasks. What's your social strategy? What's your personal development strategy? What are you doing about TV? Every one of those things is a sheet in a workbook. And so that's different than it used to be. It used to be, here's all the information, and that could be the cover sheet of your workbook. The first sheet of your workbook is all the release-specific information. The artist name, the title, cat number, UPC codes, initial emphasis tracks, all that basic information that the team needs to coordinate their effort. But then every sheet should be sort of one of the areas of marketing effort. And essentially what you're trying to do with that marketing plan is give people the material they need, the ammunition they need, so that they can see a path to victory. You've set some goals for yourself. What are we trying to do? We're trying to go top 5 CMJ, right? We want a top 5 CMJ radio track. All right, well, there's the goal. Now we're going to work toward that. We're going to try to do that by achieving these tasks and milestones by these dates, and we're going to work that radio angle. There's an online strategy. There's a social strategy. And each of those are a page in that workbook. And each one should have specific objectives you're meant to achieve toward an ultimate goal. That's a little bit different than the formal business plan-oriented marketing plan. That would be, organizational goals, tactical objectives, action programs, all of which all action programs feed up to affect the objectives, which ultimately serve the organizational goals. You can still write one of those marketing plans and crystallize things for yourself, define things, make yourself write things, make yourself put stuff on paper. I think that's smart, and it's a valuable exercise. But in practical terms, today's marketing plan looks more like a spreadsheet. Every marketing plan is limited by its budget. So what is your budget? What do you have to spend, and what are you going to try to squeeze out of it? As it happens, I just had a conversation with a marketing company about a record that I'm working in the summer. We started talking about money, and then we realized, no, let's not do this. Let's not talk about money. Let's talk about what we can do. And then, because there are not unlimited resources, we are a resource-constrained entity, just as any entity is. Most entities are resource-constrained to some extent. Let's put together a modular plan of things we can do together. Radio, online promotion, retail promotion, street team activities, some social, maybe some sync opportunities, things like that. Let's put together a comprehensive plan of things we can do together. And then let's try to apportion funds to get the most out of that plan, to wring the most efficient use of each, out of each dollar. And that felt good to me. So in that conversation, what I did was I left it with the person that they were going to write a narrative for me, what they can do for this record, all the things they can do for this record that I'm trying to work, that I'm trying to put together a plan for. And then I can identify, I can come back and respond and identify for that person which things resonate with me, which things seem really important and like high value targets and things where we could enjoy some success and reward ourselves with sales. And maybe put together a coherent plan, tactical plan dealing with, a coherent tactical plan for the most efficient use of the dollars available. The only thing that you really want to remember when it comes to the money you spend on marketing is that you want to have a reasonable expectation that you're going to get back more than you spent. So at that point it comes down to measurement and projection. You want to do real pragmatic, hopefully realistic case projections of what you're going to sell no matter what you'll sell with some decent marketing results, and what you'll sell with ideal, marketing efforts, or ideal marketing success, let's say. And if you can come up with that sort of realistic projection, then you can understand what you have to spend, and be spending in a responsible way on behalf of that artist. A lot of artists find it difficult to involve their fans in their marketing because they feel like it's on them to be cool, or to be I don't know, above commerce or above selling. But there are plenty of ways of involving your fans in your marketing that are genuine, authentic, low pressure, especially in the age of social media. So when you have an intimate interaction or a valuable interaction with a fan, an audience member, let's say, a customer, you have the great ability to amplify that interaction. That very intimate interaction can be amplified through the simple action of a retweet, or by having the exchange in public. So much so much information is gained about your values when people see you interacting with a fan, see you interacting with a customer, and understand more about how you really deal with people, that they begin to sort of feel like a stakeholder in your art and in your enterprise. They start to build identification and bond with you. So much of this is like romance. You don't have permission to walk into a bar and walk up to somebody and say, "Will you marry me?" You don't have anywhere near that kind of permission. You have nowhere near the kind of permission that it takes to say, "Buy my new record. I have a new record." You don't have that permission. It takes a long time to get enough implied or explicit permission to speak to someone, to hold their hand, to maybe hope for a peck on the cheek. You don't just get that. Time has to go by. You have to put in the work. You have to prove yourself trustworthy and clean. And the same for the artist. It's, spamming me with, "I got a new CD, buy it." It's like, who the hell are you? What are you doing? That's not okay. You got to put in the time. You got to make me understand who you are. Make me like you. Make me like your music. Then maybe if I know that it's available to be bought, I'll buy it. But you got to put in the time. You got to romance me. when you need to reach people and you need them to understand your value proposition, you're going to look for every tool in the box. And if you're really thinking hard about this stuff, then you're going to understand, not every technology is going to resonate with everybody, right? So maybe you're not a Twitter person. Okay, cool, but then maybe you are a Facebook person, and you're going to have to see how you can leverage Facebook to be good for you. But so much of it is just being a graceful and decent person. So much of it is just understanding how people should treat people. Understanding basic kindness, basic gratitude, basic generosity. It doesn't matter which of the technologies you use, whether you use them all, whether you spread yourself too thin, not a great idea, whether you focus on one thing, also not a great idea. You want to use a little bit of the things that feel good to you. But no matter what you use, it's just got to be from a place of kindness, grace, decency, generosity, authenticity. If you're not a real person, it just won't matter. And to back it all up, first you have to be making something great. Because if you're not making music that's worth hearing, then everything else just falls apart. It's the table underneath the house of cards, the great music. Great music is music that connects with a cohort, right? It connects with people. It doesn't matter whether it's great music to me. If 100,000 people connect with it and they really love it, then it's great for them. It's great by definition. All I'm saying is that if you're not making a great product, if you're not making something that can be connected with, has enough substance to feed people, then you don't have enough to build on. I think it's very important that you can put your hand on your heart and say, I'm bringing something valuable here. There's nutrition in this food. I'm not just selling you empty calories. I'm bringing you apples. I'm not bringing you French fries. It's 90% of the marketing plan. 90% of the marketing plan is make something valuable. After that, it's all icing on the cake. Seems to me. Yeah, and a lot of the heavy lifting is done by people automagically, as we say. You create something spectacular, and you don't have to push and create all this special stuff. It just automatically occurs. You put enough in place, you put enough pieces in place, and you give people the tools, the basic tools, they'll pick them up. They'll do the work for you. It's creating that real work of substance, that real work of meaning, putting yourself out there, risking something, putting something down and then saying, I made this, it's me. That's what not enough people do. And if the new music world is more people doing that, count me in. I'm psyched. But that's an act of bravery. That takes a real act of bravery. And I don't know if we have a lot more brave people around. Hope we do. Because that's where the real value is. And then if you're at that point and you have all that going for you, it's a great time to be in music. Because you have free, frictionless tools of commerce, of marketing, of promotion, of communication. Never before in the history of commerce have we had so much available, so much power available, so much capability available for so little cost. We're in a very particular golden age, but we need meaning.